Hello, welcome to Cardboard History. I'm David, and this is my national recap. I want to share some pickups, some things that I got, and just share my overall experience of the show. I'm sure there's plenty of these videos going out, and just want to share my take on things. I was there Thursday and Friday, and I live in Ohio, so I just drove there Thursday morning. It's about a 2.5 hour drive. And like everyone else, I experienced the same issue. I tried to get there early, tried to arrive about an hour early, and got stuck in traffic for 45 minutes. So thankfully, I was able to get parked and get in by the time that things started. But that was kind of evident. One of the first things is that traffic was going to be difficult getting in and out of the place. But first impressions of the show getting in there, was just huge. Again, I mean, obviously this is the first national I've been to, so it's larger than any show that I've ever been to, and definitely different in the amount of promotional items and booths that were there in corporate presence. Definitely different than most shows. So I had my goals of trying to find some elusive cards or some higher value cards that stretched my budget that I'd have to find in a lower grade. And I made a first pass through the show that almost took the entire first day. Just going through, stopping at booths that had vintage, that I thought might have some of the things that I was looking for. And I really didn't, the first time through, I only spent about $30. So I was feeling okay on my budget. Some of the things that I picked up here, the one booth I stopped at, I saw they had these Auravision, and I've seen a lot of people on YouTube picking these up recently, and I saw the banks, and it was only $12, and it doesn't have the hole punched out in the middle there. So these are, you can listen to these on a vinyl record player, or you can listen to them on YouTube if you just look it up. So I found a booth that had these, and so I picked up the banks for my Cubs collection, and then I also noticed that they had a box of Post and Jello cards, and so I just went through and grabbed a bunch of these for like $1 or $2. So these are sets that I'm trying to put together for the Cubs, and was happy to be able to pick up a bunch of those for pretty cheap. So between the Auravision and those Post cards, I spent about $30. So that was, for me, kind of a quick, easy find. And then on the second pass, I went back to one booth that was just overcrowded that I knew I bought from this dealer before at Strongsville, and I knew he would have some of the things that I was looking for. And so I went back to his booth and sat down for a while, looked through his Venezuelans, because I'm trying to put together the Cubs team set in the Venezuelan tops now that I've completed the base American tops run. And so he had a few of those and a few other things that I picked up. So 33 Gaudi of Frank DeMarais. And then these are the Venezuelans. He had a couple 59s that I picked up, and the 66. And then one other thing in his booth that caught my eye right away was this Transogram, 1969 Transogram Ernie Banks. So I had a Hank Aaron Transogram earlier this year that I picked up at an auction for really cheap, and kind of sold it to make a profit, and now I was able to pick up the Banks. So glad to add this to my collection. You don't see these every day. And while I was there looking through the Venezuelans, I thought I would try to put together some sort of a package deal. And so I spent quite a bit of time looking through this dealer's booths, trying to find anything I could, and I found a T206 card, which I do not have because I submitted it through SGC to get graded. There we go, get that back. And then the big card of the show for me was this 56 Jackie. So this was one of the ones that was a little bit lower on my list, but after my priority cards, I didn't see them anywhere. I thought this was just a fantastic example in my budget, and at a 2.5, I bought it pretty much at what comps go for on a 2.5. But this is just super clean, a little off center top to bottom, but beyond that, maybe a little bit of a wrinkle over here is why it has a 2.5. But this was one of the highlights of the show for me, being able to pick up this card. Also ran into the Drew of Vintage Legacy, and he was handing out these card stands, which I'm sure everyone has seen all over YouTube now. So picked up a couple of those from him. So I'll try those out. First time using this. So that was kind of my big purchase on Thursday. And from there, things went downhill a little bit. Ran into some trouble. So one thing I wanted to try to do was to go to the Topps Q&A. I've heard other YouTubers talk about going to that and them having some really cool handouts and just an interesting chance to see kind of behind the scenes what's going on with Topps and get some questions answered, although I don't expect they revealed a whole lot. But at around noon, I went to the Topps booth to figure out if there's any way to sign up for it, figure out when it was, what was going on, and nobody could give me an answer. I spent about 25 minutes there talking to several people, and no one seemed to have any idea what was going on. So they told me to come back closer to the event, and maybe somebody from the events team would be there, and they could tell me what I needed to do. And so I went, looked around, purchased some things, and then came back around 2:50 or so, 2:45, and started talking to a bunch of people again. Talked to one guy. He had an appointment he had to get to, so he asked a couple of people, didn't really find anything, and then eventually I found someone that was really worked hard to try to find the answers for me, and eventually she let me know that there was supposed to be a table up by the TV in the corner that had a little QR code with a sign that you could sign up for this. So I got over there. Internet was just frustrating all weekend. Sometimes it would work great, sometimes it wouldn't. And I struggled with the Wi-Fi until about 3:02 when I finally got the QR code to work. And when I got to the website, it said that registration had closed. It closed at 3. So that was really frustrating for me because I had been to Topps twice. I'd been there early enough to try to find out, but no one had the answers for me. And so I missed registration. The employee that was working with me told me where the event was going to be and said you can go and try to talk your way in. So that's what I did. After I finished up looking around, got close to about 5:30, I went downstairs to the meeting room where it was happening, let the people there know what had happened, see if I could get an extra spot in. There were a handful of other kids who had registered, but they weren't 18, so they technically couldn't get in, but they had parents with them. So they told me to wait off to the side with these people to see if there was any extra space. And there were a couple of extra people that showed up with media credentials that had tried to talk about getting in. But everyone went in. I was waiting around to see if there was space, and they let the kids go in, which is fine, but then they said no one else. So there was about 8 of us waiting, and they let 4 people in, and I was the first one that got turned away. So that was really frustrating for me because I was looking forward to that event and just had a difficult time. Then I stepped away from that and looked at my phone and saw that I had a voicemail, and I hadn't thought about it too much. Earlier in the day I got a phone call, and it sounded like a political call or something like that, and the call dropped pretty quickly because of the terrible reception. But I listened to the voicemail, and it was the hotel calling saying that they had overbooked and I was not going to have a room anymore. So things went downhill really fast, and I spent about the next hour and a half on the phone with Expedia, with the hotels, trying to get a reservation moved to somewhere else. I was like 2 miles away from the IX Center with my hotel, and then they tried to send me to Akron. Eventually they sent me up north of Cleveland to an area called Wickliffe. But I was on the phone driving to the YouTube get-together and just dealing with all of that, and eventually I did find a place. But at one point I was starting to think I might just have to try to network a little bit with some of the YouTubers and see if I can find a couch to crash on, which I'm sure all of the YouTubers were very generous, and I would have been able to find a place to stay. Wouldn't have had to sleep in my car, but thankfully I was able to get a hotel room. The YouTube get-together was fantastic. That was definitely the highlight of the show for me, and it was great meeting so many people and having conversations. I had a few deals that I had worked out ahead of time, and the first one was this Armando Marsans T207 that I got from Orlando. This is for my Ken Burns collection, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but Orlando did a great video on Marsans and his story, his legacy in Cuba, and it was really cool for me to pick this up from Orlando, knowing that he is a Cuban baseball card collector. And so that was definitely one of the more exciting pickups for me. And then I also had worked out ahead of time a couple of things from Rick Vintage Oddball Cards. This S74 Silk Frank Chance, and this 1930 Bagger Chocolate from Cuba of Gabby Hartnett. This is really low pop, only a handful of these have been graded. So this kind of fulfilled my looking for something rare, and then I really enjoy the silks, especially with the T205 design there. So I was happy to pick those up from Rick. And then I also ran into Eric Forleaf, which was my first time meeting him, and he had watched my national pre-show or video that I did talking about things that I was looking for, and he very generously gave me this Anthony Edwards. So the my only non-baseball card pickup of the week was a gift. So Eric, thank you so much. This was very generous of you. I'm a Timberwolves fan, have been since the days of Stephen Marbury and Kevin Garnett, and so I'm really excited about the Timberwolves this coming year, especially Anthony Edwards, and also looking forward to seeing what he does at the Olympics. So really excited to pick that up. Again, it was just a great time getting to talk to people, talk to Mark Dodgers Cards, had a great conversation with him and just connecting, and also Jake with Legends Never Die, kind of connecting on a lot of our shared experiences being card collectors and also being in seminary and working at churches and ministries. So that was a great time, great conversation. Would have stayed longer, but I was exhausted. I had COVID the week before, so I was still recovering from that and had to definitely get some sleep. So the next day, I made sure to get there early. I showed up at the show about 2 hours before I could get in, just so I didn't have to deal with traffic. And I sat in my car for a little while, trying to plan out the day, figure out with the budget I had left, what I was looking for, what I hoped to find. It was just kind of a little bit of time to relax before heading into the show. The first thing I wanted to do when I got to the show, I had bought, ahead of time, I bought a box of 2024 Topps Series 2 Hobby, and I wanted to try the wrapper redemption that Topps does. Normally they say you need to buy it at the show, but from what I've heard, prices are always a lot more expensive at the show. So I just bought a box off of Fanatics about a month before the show, with the expectation that this would be one of the products eligible for redemption, and brought it with me just to kind of experience this side of the National and see what I could get out of a silver pack. And so I got there, stood in line. It really took about 45 minutes to an hour to get through line, and I was one of the first people in line that didn't have a VIP pass. When I got up towards the front, this was kind of the crazy part, was there was a breaker up there that was trying to get people to go through line for him, and good, bad, or indifferent, I decided to help them out, because they were giving away a free hobby box with anyone that would take stuff through for them. So I had my one box and I took 11 of theirs through, so that was the limit on those packs, was 12 per customer. So they gave me a box of Heritage, 2024 Topps Heritage, which nothing really came out of that box, but I tried to keep track of which box of Series 2 Hobby was mine, because all the other boxes that they gave me were also Series 2 Hobby. And I think I grabbed the right box when I left, but I waited until after the show to open it, and I'll share later what I pulled out of that. Then the rest of the day, went around, tried to pick up a few more things. I picked up these 3 W514s, all Cubs players. I have about half of this Cubs set. So Leslie Mann, Fred Merkle, and Charlie Deal. The Fred Merkle is one that I really had my eye open for. He has a history with the Cubs from the 1908 pennant race, where he famously did the Merkle boner, where he failed to touch second base and ran straight to the dugout and that voided what would have been the winning run, and eventually allowed the Cubs to make it to the World Series that year and win the World Series. So this is, for me, kind of a significant card because it shows Merkle in his time on the Cubs. And he spent a year or two with the Cubs after playing much of his career with the Giants. And then a few other things I just picked up from booths that I saw. This is a 69 Globe import, Ernie Banks. And then I found another Venezuelan, 64 Venezuelan, 49 Leaf, Cliff Aberson, and a 71 Bazooka, Randy Hundley. So these were just some cards that I found in value bins and things like that. I picked up a couple of cards for my Ken Burns collection of Joe Dugan and Specs Toporser. So I'll talk about these more when I do videos for these guys as well. And then from there, my budget was pretty well shot. I had maybe about $100 left or so, and so I just went around to some dollar boxes and saw what I could. I picked up this Morel, which yesterday the news came out that he was traded to the Rays for Isaac Paredes, and I have very mixed feelings about this. Morel was my favorite player on the Cubs, and I know as the year has gone on, his production has diminished, and he really just did not have a space to fit on the team. His bat was really potent, but they needed really to be able to use him in the lineup on the field somewhere. They tried him out at third base and really gave him as good of a shot as they could at third base, but he just really was performing below average level as a third baseman. So I'll be really sad to see him go. I hope he does well with the Rays, and looking forward to seeing what Paredes does and what he offers to the Cubs. But I had picked this up before the news came out from Bowman's Best this year. Just love the rookie card and kind of the background design on this. And then the rest of these are just, they were all kind of dollar box value bin finds that 03. Some of these are for my gold collection. Topps Chrome numbered. Nico Horner. Showed these before. The 99 home run parade is part of the Topps base set, but there's a card for each home run of 1 through 66 for Sammy Sosa. So this is card number 15, and on the back it shows the details of his 15th home run. And then a few more golds. Edward Alzolay, hopefully he can come back from being injured this year. And then Velasquez, who's on the Royals now, but this is his rookie card, and it's the Golden Mirror SSP. So I found this in a dollar box or a value box, but the dealer recognized that it was a short print, and so charged me a little bit more for it. So those were some of my dollar box finds, and really from there had like $20 left. And I remembered that I saw that somebody had a set of the 1976 Chicagoland Collectors Chicago Greats. That's what these are. And these are actually both cards that I was looking for the Ken Burns collection of Philip Wrigley and Bill Veeck. And they were in that set, as well as like a Banks and some other Cubs and White Sox players. So that was the last thing that I had picked up. And at that point, I was exhausted. I had thought about staying for trade night or to see the Dick Perez documentary premiere, but I was really wiped out, and so I started to drive back home. Got out to my car, and before I left, decided to open up the 2 hobby boxes that I had received, and the national pack. So the national silver pack that I got with these top loaders from BCW that they were giving away, I did get a Matt Shaw, so I was excited to get a Cubs out of there. Mason Wynn rookie card. And then really, I didn't get any parallels or autographs, but I don't know that I could have gotten a better pack as far as players. Getting Yamamoto's rookie card, and then also Paul Skeens. So I definitely tried to capitalize on the Paul Skeens hype and listed this on eBay and sold it right away for about $27. So I got to ship this out this morning, but was happy to get that out of the pack. And then opening up the hobby box of Series 2. I thought it was going to be a good pack because first pack pulled Javier Assad numbered to 299 out of Cubs for my Cubs collection, so thought this was great. And then every hobby box has a patch or an auto in it, and I had gotten down to the last pack, and I thought maybe I missed something. I opened the pack up, and I could tell there wasn't a thick card, so I thought, hey, maybe there's an auto. And there was. There was a Pete Crow Armstrong 1989 Topps gold auto numbered to 50, numbered 34 out of 50. So this was definitely an exciting way to end a national. I know there's a lot of bigger names that you could have gotten an auto from, but the fact that you're not even guaranteed an auto and that I picked up a Cubs rookie auto that was numbered was just really exciting for me. Exciting to see what PCA does with the Cubs. So that was kind of the end of my national. Ended on a high note with getting this out of that box. And overall, just had a fantastic time. Again, it was great seeing people around the show. Had a good conversation with Dave Blue Jacket 66 when we ran into each other in the restroom, and talked to him a little bit about some card restoration ideas for an old card that I have that I'm trying to get restored because it's torn in two. And that was a good conversation and good to meet him. And it was overall just a fantastic time. Definitely exhausting, but thoroughly enjoyed my time. And that's really what my experience was like. So if I met you there, it was great to meet you. If you were there and I missed you, hopefully next year I'll be able to meet some more people and have a great time as it's in Chicago. So we'll see if I'll be able to make it or not next year, but I really hope I can. This was a fantastic experience and definitely one of the highlights of my card collecting year. Thank you for watching. That's all I got.